What information do you need to gather in order to bring your own personal injury lawsuit without a lawyer? Hi, I'm Tom Friedman. I'm a lawyer in Nevada, and before we get into the information you need to gather, the first thing you should look at is the statute of limitations. If you're bringing a personal injury lawsuit and you're here in the state of Nevada, you have 2 years from the date of the injury in order to bring your lawsuit. If you wait 2 years and 1 day, no matter how badly you are hurt, no matter how much someone else is at fault, you have no lawsuit. So first, check the state you're in to find out what your statute of limitations is, and be sure to bring your claim before that passes, because if you try to bring it after it passes, you are completely out of luck. So what do you need? Assuming you're bringing your claim before the statute of limitations runs, what kind of information do you need to bring your claim on your own without hiring a lawyer? Well, the first thing you need to do is establish liability. And that essentially means you need to show that somebody else is at fault for causing your injuries. Well, how do you do that? If it's a car accident, it's usually fairly simple. There's an accident, the police come, there's a police report, and the police officer writes, vehicle 1 rear-ended vehicle 2, vehicle 1's ticketed. So what you get from a police report, if it's a pretty simple rear-end collision, is the person that rear-ended the other person is at fault for causing the accident. So that goes a long way to establishing liability. Now, it's a little more complicated if you've got a different kind of lawsuit. Let's say you're at a casino and you slip on something wet in the floor and fall down. All right, well, how are you going to establish liability? Well, that gets a little more complicated. You're going to want to talk to witnesses. You're going to try to get the video from the casino that they're probably not just going to hand over to you with a short request, but you need that information because you want to find out what was on the floor, how long it was there, who saw it, who knew about it, things like that. So anyway, first you do your due diligence to go and find all the information you can to prove the person that caused your injury is at fault. That's the liability section. Now, once you've got the information you need to prove the liability section, you now need to go prove the damages section. And so what's the damages section? That's essentially the injuries to you caused by the other person, and you need to quantitate those injuries. And usually records, paper, objects, emails, whatever are used to show that. If you say, hey, I was really hurt and it hurt so bad, then the other side, their lawyer, their insurance adjuster, is going to look at that and go, well, so what? Those are just words. Anybody can say words. We need documents to prove that. So what do? Well, damages is basically the legal term for how much loss that you've incurred due to someone else's fault. So let's go back to the auto accident example. It's pretty simple. One car rear-ends another car. This car needs to be fixed. You can take it to an auto shop and they'll say, hey, all right, we can fix that. It's going to cost X amount of dollars. Well, now you know what your property damage is. It's going to be X amount of dollars or something kind of close to that. Or when it's a little harder is, let's say that you are injured. You're in the car, you had a slip and fall, you had a construction accident, whatever it is. You're injured. How do you prove your injuries? Well, you prove your injuries with medical records. So whatever happened. You go to urgent care, emergency room, something like that. They're going to give you discharge papers. Those papers are nice, but that's not what you really need. What you need is your actual medical records and billing, so you can actually go to your provider and say, hey, I'm Tom Friedman. I was at your facility on these dates. I need my medical records, and they need to give you your medical records. Now, they might charge you for it. Usually it's some cents per page, so be ready to open your wallet a little bit, but you're going to need those records in order to prove your injuries. So if you went to ER, go get those records. If you went to chiropractic, physical therapy, something like that afterwards, go get those records. If you had some sort of a surgery, go get those records. And so you can do this on your own without a lawyer because your providers do need to give you your medical records because they're your medical records. They're very hard for other people to get, but they should not be that hard for you to get. Now, if you lost work due to your injuries, you're going to also need to gather records to show that. So what records would those be? Well, if you've got a doctor saying, hey, Tom Friedman cannot go to work for 30 days due to his injuries, you're going to want that record. And then you're also going to want the records from your work showing that you make X dollars per day or per week or per month. So simple math will show, hey, if you're off for 20 days and you make X dollars per day, then 20 times X is how much money you lost because you didn't get to go to work. It gets more complicated if you're not able to work in the same job or your workability is diminished, so your wages are going to be reduced into the future. Now, it's very rare that you're going to have a doctor that's going to tell you that you treat with, hey, you know what, you're only going to make X dollars an hour per year for the rest of your life, which is X amount of years. Generally, that's where an expert witness comes in. Lawyers will usually hire these expert witnesses, but there's nothing that prevents someone bringing a claim on their own to hire expert witnesses as well. So what this means is if you have past employment records or past lost wages, you can probably show yourself the records to prove your case for past lost wages. You're showing how much you earned and how many days you were off. If you need to prove future lost wages, you're probably going to need an expert witness for that, and you probably can go and hire somebody on your own. It's just a little bit more complicated. You also want to prepare something to show your pain and suffering because at least here in Nevada and in multiple other states, you are allowed to recover for your pain and suffering. Well, here in the state of Nevada, there's no math formula that will tell you exactly what it is, but here's kind of how it works. If you were injured and you were in a lot of pain, but it went away in 48 hours, your pain and suffering time is very, very small. If you were in pain and it lasted for a long period of time, you had months and months of treatment, you had years of treatment, or you didn't even get better, then your pain and suffering is going to be considerably bigger. And there's not really a formula that you can say, well, you know, I went to the doctor and have this many bills, therefore I'm entitled to exactly this much of pain and suffering. But what you do want to do is you want to provide something to the other side to say, look, this is what my pain levels were, and this is how long they were. And if you still have ongoing pain and suffering, then you want to include that. You also want to include things like, hey, I had to hire a housekeeper because I couldn't mop the floor anymore, or I had to hire gardeners because I couldn't mow the lawn anymore, things like that to demonstrate your losses due to the injuries caused by somebody else's fault. So to wrap this up, if you've got a small claim, it's usually not a bad idea. Well, I shouldn't say that. I'm a lawyer. What do lawyers do? Lawyers always recommend that you go hire a lawyer. So I'm not going to say you should do this on your own because that would go against what lawyers are supposed to say, but I am going to say if you choose to bring a claim on your own, generally when there's a smaller case, it's easier to bring that on your own. If you have a much larger complex case with experts, it's always a good idea to seek the advice of a lawyer. If you have any questions, comments, please feel free to give me a call, drop me an email. Thanks very much for watching.